It's Connor here, San Diego. Over these last 7 days here in San Diego, I've been at a Vistage Global Leadership Conference with almost 1,000 senior coaches, mentors, CEOs. And there's been 5 books that have been recommended by different speakers over the course of these days that I've noted down. 4 of these books I've already read, and 1 I haven't yet read, but will be reading fairly soon. First book that was mentioned was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And I think, to me, this is one of the most fundamental books that every human being should read. I read it at a tough point in my life, and it really helped me make sense of life. And what I took from it was that there are 3 types of why that we can have. And the 3 types of why, first is you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for someone else. And Viktor Frankl in Auschwitz, in the concentration camp, he saw that some people died in a day, some people died in a week, and some people have what it takes to just stick it out through whatever came at them day after day, week after week, month after month. And that these people had one of these 3 whys. One was they weren't surviving for themselves. They were surviving for someone else who's out there and will need them when this is over. And it might be their children, their wife, but they were surviving not for themselves, but for someone who was going to need them. The second was they had a project only they could complete. And Viktor Frankl's own survival, he credits to this why, a project that only he could complete. And the project that only he could complete is this actual book, Man's Search for Meaning. He had borne witness to what he had seen in the prison camps of Auschwitz and written it down, and he had to survive to get this book, this message out to the world. And the third type of why is someone that finds meaning in the suffering itself. And this is a very hard one to understand here in your head. And I don't know if it's something that could be shared from one human being to another. It's something you can only discover for yourself. And for me, in a tough part of my life, in a tough time, there was a transition in how I dealt with tough things. And I just realized to be human is to be able to go through suffering and keep going. And that there's something magnificent in the human capacity to willingly choose a painful path. The next book that was recommended was The 4 Agreements, which I think is just about having impeccable agreements. The next book that was recommended, The EMyth, Michael Gerber. And anyone who's in small business, anyone who's an entrepreneur, this should be required reading before you buy a business, start a business. And Michael Gerber's famous distinction is the distinction between working in your business or working on your business. And the EMyth begins with a story about a man walking into a funeral home, and up the front there's a casket, and he walks up, and when he reaches the front he looks in and he sees it's him in the casket, and he's listening to a eulogy. He's listening to a good friend give his eulogy. And the EMyth begins asking, what do you want to hear? What do you want to be said? The person who's sharing your eulogy, what are they talking about? What is your legacy? Start there. Get really clear on what that is, who you are, how you live your life, so that that eulogy is something that is magnificent. Because if not, you're going to get trapped in the weeds, pulled into every small thing. And the EMyth distinguishes the guru who has 1,000 helpers, the person whose ego makes it very hard to give away work and likes to keep the difficult things or keep the power through what they're able to do. The EMyth is about letting go, hiring good people, almost making yourself replaceable. And if your business is going to have value, if your business is going to be worthy for a buyer, it needs to be a business that doesn't depend on you. One of the speakers at the conference, they help businesses prepare for a sale. And they have a survey. They'll go to the customers and the vendors, and one of the questions they'll ask is, to what degree do you do business with this company because of the individual who is the owner or the leader? And the greater degree to which customers do business because they like the owner versus the system that the business is effective, really detracts from the value of the business. It might be good for the ego of the owner, but long term it's going to trap you in and lead to a very sense of being trapped in something that you cannot remove yourself, you cannot take a day away. So the EMyth, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner, if you aspire to that, read this book, the EMyth. The fourth book that was mentioned was The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle's book. And for me, it's a very powerful shared experience from this man Eckhart Tolle of his own moment where he went from really suffering, really struggling, really depressed, and in a moment of awareness just let go of all the baggage, all the suffering. And the book for me was very helpful in realizing how much of the suffering is inside my head about what I'm trying to do to the world versus what is real. It's not a book everyone is going to find something in. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone, but so if it doesn't resonate, put it down. But I think there's some very powerful experience from Eckhart in the book. The fifth book that I have not read but will be reading is a book called Halftime, and it's a book about the shift from success to significance. And Vistage, our conference here, was very much about mentors and coaches who have been CEOs. They've left behind the life of success, of execution, of running a business, and moved to a life that is more about significance, impacting others, making a positive difference, creating a community that is better than it is about individual success. So I've bought that book, it's on my Kindle, I'll be reading it, and maybe one of these future videos will be a summary of what I've taken from the book about the shift from a search for individual success towards a life more focused on creating of significance and a legacy. So there's 5 books that I've heard mentioned over these days at the conference here in San Diego, and if you haven't read any of those 5, read them. If you have read them, in the comments below, what did you take from each of those books? And if you've got other books that you think will be worth reading, let me know in the comments here below. Have a great week. Connor from San Diego. Thank you for your comments, your likes, your shares. Keep them coming. It keeps me inspired to keep making these videos, pulling out this kit and speaking in car parks in San Diego. Have a great one. Have a great day. It's Connor about to get the taxi to the airport and fly back to London and then on to Barcelona. Have a great week. Thank you for your likes, your shares, your comments. Keep them coming.